Hello everybody, how's it going? If you are on this live, you're here to learn about hot cocoa bombs. My name is Jessica Gensel. I'm gonna give it like one more minute. I know people can watch the replay so we could get started right away, but I'm just gonna wait 1 minute, get a couple more things ready, and then we'll get started. All right, we'll get started. There's 8 of us together. We can go ahead and get going. So like I said, my name is Jessica Gensel. This is the Hot Cocoa Bake Along. So hopefully you're ready to make some hot cocoa bombs. I'm gonna do my best to show you kind of my process, minus a couple of steps because I'm in a space that I've never worked in before and I don't have everything, but we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work on this Friday afternoon. So I would love to know a little bit about you guys. So if you want to tell me where you're from, how long you've been in business, leave me a comment. I'd love to get to know all of you guys. I have been in business for about a year. I run Sprinkled Raspberry Bakery, which is kind of a weird name for a business, at least I think so, but it's named after my car. It's kind of a long story, but everybody used to call it a raspberry because it's kind of purplish, kind of maroonish, and that kind of just stuck and I ran with it. And I love sprinkles, so, you know, why not combine the two? Yeah, I've been in business for about a year. I kind of started after Thanksgiving of last year, so I definitely have a COVID business, but this is like my 3rd go around of starting a business. The longest I've stuck with it, which is pretty good, I think. But yeah, I've always had that like burnout, just like start it, quit, and then I joined this group and I learned so much. So I want to take a little bit of what I know and pass it on to you guys in hot cocoa bombs. I talk with my hands, hopefully that doesn't distract you guys. It's a nervous habit. Anyhow, let's get started. I have my iPad, so I'll be checking comments as often as I can, but I promise to answer all questions. At some point, if you're watching it in the replay and you want to just like leave like I think #replay and I'll check it out and I will answer all questions anytime. Even if it's a year from now you're watching this, you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I will answer your questions. So with that being said, let's kind of go over some mise en place. So mise en place is just meaning to get all of our stuff together. You probably already do this. I just like to talk about it because I'm weird. I'm weird like that. So I have 3 different bowls. Inside of each bowl is my different type of chocolate. So I have milk chocolate, I have dark chocolate, and then I have some white chocolate that I already melted, kind of so I don't take up too much of your time today. I know that most people don't mind if it's about an hour, a little over. I'm gonna try to keep it under an hour. Just be mindful of your time. It's Friday, you have orders going out this weekend. You want to just spend time with your family, so I don't wanna take up too much time. But I have 3 different bowls. I just use these bowls I got from Target. You can use glass bowls, whatever you're comfortable with. And then this is my chocolate. I have a spatula for every type of chocolate. So I have 3 of them, 1 for milk, dark, and white, so that I don't get them mixed up. It also just makes my life easier. I don't have to like mix chocolate, rinse it off, mix chocolate. I have 1 for all of the kinds that I need. Some other things that I have my molds. So I have a few different type of molds. We're gonna go into all of this. I wanna give you guys as much information as possible, but I have my molds. Just kind of watching comments as I go. I have my molds. I have a 3-piece mold. So that, and like I said, I'll go into a little bit more, but there's 3 different pieces. You might also have some silicone molds. And that is whatever you have. I have my toppings for my shells. So this is peppermint. I also have some sprinkles to go on the outside. I also have my hot cocoa powder, or my cocoa mix. So this is white chocolate peppermint. I'm making my 3 different types of cocoa bombs today are white chocolate peppermint, just plain milk chocolate, and then double chocolate. And I have my little packet. So I'm using up some Swiss Miss and I have Good and Gather, the Target brand of double chocolate. So there's a lot of different kinds that you could get, whatever you prefer. Some people like to use up make up their own recipe. I have not found a recipe that I like, and I'm still working on one. So I just use the packaged stuff. I don't think my clients care, so I just go with it. What else do I have? I also have some marshmallows. Marshmallows go on the inside. Kind of the magic of making hot cocoa bombs is watching that explode when you pour milk. Sorry for my words. When you pour milk over it. I also have drizzle bottles. These cost me, I got 2 for $3.99 at a local craft store here in Arizona, but you can find these online. I also have some from Holly Fox on Etsy. She sells cookie cutters and different stuff. These are Cellabakes, I think is the name. Could be butchering it, I hope I'm not. But I have drizzle bottles. I have 1 bottle for every kind of chocolate. So I have white chocolate, milk chocolate, and dark chocolate. It seems maybe a little excessive to have 3 of everything, but I find that it helps me stay organized, it helps me stay clean, and that's what I'm all about. Some other things I have cupcake liners. These are so I can put my empty shells on them. And that's it. That's my mise en place. I have everything put in place. I'm ready to go. So we're gonna get started and talk about chocolate. My favorite thing to talk about is chocolate. So these are melting wafers. This is Ghirardelli. This is what the package looks like. There's a milk chocolate. This is what the dark chocolate looks like. This is what the white chocolate looks like. So you can get all 3 types. This is what I use primarily for my business, for my hot cocoa bombs, or my dipped products. This is what I like. I can find these 2 at Target. I can find them at mostly any place has these. I can find them at Sam's Club. I can find them at Walmart. Again, I'm in Arizona, so my stores might differ from yours. I can find them at Fry's, which for other people might be Kroger, or Ralph's, depending on where you live. I can only find these at Walmart and like seasonally at Sam's Club. So these are a lot harder to find. So these are what I go to for my dark and white. This is gonna be kind of hit or miss. But these are my melting wafers. You can also get, there's a couple different brands, but the other brand that I really like is Merkin's. I got this at my local like baking shop, but you can find these online. Shipping is pretty expensive, but you gotta do what you gotta do to get your chocolate, right? So I have milk chocolate melting wafers from Merkin's. These are really good. These are what I use if I can't find Ghirardelli. Yeah, so I stick with just milk, dark, and white. You can also get colored chocolate, or you can do your own color your own white chocolate with color mill or sugar art. There's a lot of different kinds. I like to have it already done for me because I'm lazy and I'm not afraid to spend that like couple extra dollars just so I don't have to do extra work. But these are Merkin's. I have green and I have red. I'll use red for my red velvet cocoa bombs. And I'll use green for the mean one. Y'all know that Christmas story that we're not gonna mention the name for certain reasons, but y'all can think about it. So I have those. Couple of things, I'm sorry, I talk a million miles a minute. Please leave a question if I'm going too fast, please let me know. I'll try to slow it down. I'm pretty sure I talk faster than Heather and Corey, so. Oh, you were looking for it for an hour ago? Yeah, I'm on Pacific right now, Mountain. I don't even know what I'm on. Arizona doesn't observe it, and I forget that this is in Eastern, and things are weird. But you can, yeah, I don't know, just lost my train of thought there. So some other chocolate you could use, but I don't recommend, is this Ghirardelli like baking bars. I don't think that this produces a good product, an end product, so I steer away from these. Definitely, last resort, use chocolate chips. I wouldn't recommend that. Try to get your hands on at least these melting wafers. These will be your best friend. I have just like plain marshmallows. You can use the dehydrated ones. You can make your own if you're fancy. I'm not, so I'm using the ones that are already done for me. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about molds. I wanted to talk about molds really fast. So there are 3 types of molds you can find on the market. there are silicone molds. These are what I used last year. They were the only things I could find because I hit the hot cocoa bomb phase like too late. So these are silicone. They're very flexible. They're easy to work with to a point, but the 3-piece molds I find a little bit easier. So these are, like I said, very flexible, kind of easy to move around. Some people will tell you to cut out your individual molds, so like cut your mold, so it's like one piece for the shell. I don't like to mess up my baking stuff. It's kind of a personal preference, but you can do whatever you like. So this is a silicone mold. This is a 70 mm shell. I also have these purple ones that are 50. So also silicone. I got these on Etsy and I got these bigger ones on Amazon. You can find these anywhere. But these are 50, so they're a little bit smaller. These I only sold last year. My clients only ever got the small ones. I can never find the big molds. And these I think are good for kids. They're very, very small, make a very small cup of hot cocoa, and I think that they're great. And so I do sell these, but I personally prefer, just my personal preference, these larger ones. So I'll sell them as a large for $1 more, $1 or $2 more. I forget what my prices are now, but I will sell these for a little bit more. I personally like them, and I know my clients prefer these, but I do sell them, like you can get like a combo, like a mom and a kid pack, whatever. You can be more creative than I am. I'm not a very creative person when it comes to like naming my marketing stuff, but that's okay. My personal preference for molds are these 3-piece molds. So, kind of as in the name, I'm going to walk you through it. There are 3 pieces. There's the top piece, there's this bottom piece, and these are hard, they're not as flexible, but there are these little inserts. And these inserts you put in, so you fill your chocolate into the mold, and then you put your insert in it, you press down, you put your top piece on it, you press it together, and then you can easily remove it. I personally prefer these. It's a lot easier to work with, but I'll show you both kinds. Some other 3-piece molds you can get if you don't want to just do some spheres. You can get little hearts. And I think I posted this in the group, but I got these at chocolatemoldsco.com, but I'll post it in the actual like event page again. So I got some heart ones. I have like the 50 millimeter, the small ones again. Some other 3-piece molds that I just got are these super cute little reindeers, and you can have more fun with these as well. So the 2 most common kinds are going to be the 70 millimeters and the 50 millimeters in those molds. Okay, let me just check my kosher. Ooh, it's Merkins. It is spelled M-E-R-C-K-E-N-S, and I will go back through and I'll respond to your comment and I'll type that. So Merkins is the type of chocolate. But we went over molds and we talked about chocolate. Let's get to actually melting this. So you can I use the microwave. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Some people don't like to use their microwave for it. That's okay too. You can use a double boiler. So get a pot, sorry for all the clanking. Get a pot, fill it with a little bit of water using a glass bowl or a heat safe bowl that you can put on top of it so that the water is going to like release the steam to hit it but not actually touch the bottom of it. You can double boil, melt it like that. I just use the microwave. I'm gonna pop it in for 30 seconds, mix it, another 30 seconds until I feel like it's good. So I'll show you after each one. So I like to do 30 seconds. You could do 20, you can do 15. If you're afraid of it overheating or you're afraid you might burn it, that is a possibility. You can do it for less time. I just am comfortable with 30. I don't have my microwave on anything else. It's just on the highest setting. So I just do 30 and I stir and I watch and I stir and I watch. Okay, so now that my 30 seconds is up, sorry for the silence, guys. I just wanted to make sure I was getting all the comments. But my 30 seconds is up. If I look at it, I can tell it's not melted, but I'm gonna stir it. Sorry, I wish I could like show you, but I'm gonna stir it. I'm gonna notice as I'm going that it is sticking together. It is melting, but it's not there yet. And I know a lot of us probably already know how to melt chocolate, but I'm a weirdo and I'm gonna teach you what I know. So I'm gonna put it in another 30 seconds. And like I said, I already have my white melted, but it's starting to get pretty solid again. So I'll probably pop this into the microwave. But at this point, just melting all over chocolate, getting ready, and then I'll show you how I use the molds. I was going to make all of this ahead of time, but then I read a comment once that you prefer when like all the steps are done for you, so I left some of the steps here. I hope you guys aren't too mad at how slow it's gonna go, but we'll get there. But now, okay, so I did it for a minute and I have chocolate, but I also have solid pieces. So I'm going to look at this and realize that I probably don't need another 30 seconds. So I'm gonna do it for 15, half the time, and then I'll stir and reassess. So we're almost there. If your chocolate starts to get hard on you, like kind of like my white is, it's melted, but it's not really usable right now. Just pop it in for another like 15 seconds and then you'll be good to go. My roommate is gonna love that I'm getting chocolate literally all over our brand new kitchen. That's okay. I'm not using gloves right now while I'm making these because these are going to be consumed by me. And they're only for like my photos and marketing. But if you wanted to wear gloves during this, one of your hands would be a lot cleaner. But you could. I'm just not using them right now. And I'll give you some tips on why gloves are important later on. So now I have my chocolate out. This is gone now for 1 minute and 15 seconds. And this is what I have. I don't have any more solid pieces. And it's one nice stream of chocolate. Nobody would judge you if you just like started to like lick some of this. Nobody would judge, I promise. But this is what I want. I want a nice thin stream of chocolate. And there's no more solid pieces. I'm gonna let it cool down just a little bit. It is hot to the touch. I'm gonna let it cool just a little bit. While I let that cool, I'm gonna get started on my dark chocolate. Same thing, 30 seconds stir, 30 seconds stir, and kind of go from there. So a question Beth had was that, can you temper your chocolate? I do temper my chocolate sometimes. With these melting wafers that I have from Ghirardelli and the Merkins, also candy wafers, there's no cocoa butter in it. So because there's no cocoa butter, it's considered a compound chocolate and you don't need to temper it. That's why I can just pop it in the microwave, go with it. And like, like Taylor was saying, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I use names. Taylor was saying you want to use the heat of it to melt it. That is what you can do with these. I do have, like this is actual, like these are milk chocolate colettes, and this is what would need to be tempered because there is cocoa butter in it. It would need to be tempered. That's kind of the difference. This is couverture chocolate. I hope I'm like saying that right. I know what it is, but I'm terrible at actually saying words, especially in front of a camera. So this would need to be tempered. I'm not going to show you how to temper it today just for time's sakes, but I do want to make a video and just like post it in the group, maybe the baking group, so Heather doesn't get mad. But I will post a video on how to temper it. You can look up on YouTube as well and look up tempering chocolate, but look up the seeding method. So the seeding method, you take your chocolate, you start to melt it to a certain temperature. You add in non-melted chocolate, so like more of the colettes into it, and you would bring down the temperature using that, and then you would heat it to a certain point. To not get too technical right now, we're just gonna use melting wafers. If you have chocolate that needs to be tempered, for now just look up a nice YouTube video, just to save time for today. But yes, like you guys, like somebody mentioned in the comments, sorry, I wish I could speak, you want to use the heat of the bowl to melt it. I don't ever let it go too far that I'm burning it. And just over time I've learned that this still is not going to melt. So I'm gonna keep using some heat and then just stir, stir, stir. Stir as much as you can. So I'm putting it in for another 30 seconds. And then we'll go from there. And I'm getting little chocolate pieces everywhere, which is totally okay. Yeah. So we're just finishing up our chocolate. Sorry, this part is taking so long. Living in Arizona, I'm surprised my chocolate just isn't already melted. Okay, so I have my chocolate. I've now heated up for about a minute, and I'm going to stir it. And I can still notice as I'm looking at it that it's more solid than it is liquid. So it melts, you can tell it's melted, but it's not going to be what we want. We want it to look like a nice thin stream of it. This is easy to work with. This I can put into a mold and kind of manipulate. This is not quite there. So that's when I do it for, like I said, I prefer 30 seconds at a time until I get to this point, and I go 15 seconds and use the heat of the bowl, kind of assess it, and I'll keep going until I feel like I'm at the right consistency. But I'll show that again once I pop this back in. So I also, at the same time, remelted my white chocolate. White chocolate is a little bit different than dark chocolate and milk chocolate in its composition. Not to get too technical, but it can be sometimes a little bit thicker. So if you want to thin it down, there are special things I don't know the name of, but I can look them up, that you can use, but I also will use like vegetable shortening, just a small amount, or vegetable oil. So my chocolate went in for another 15 seconds. This is my dark chocolate, if you guys care. You guys can be using whatever you want. I just wanted to use all three today. Sorry if I seem all over the place. I'm kind of a little nervous, but I'm trying to make sure I look at all the questions and give you all my insight. So this is, I can still see some solid pieces, but as I mix it, as I use my spatula, you can use a spoon, whatever, to stir it, it's starting to melt. And that is just using that hot chocolate to just melt it without putting it back in the microwave so that you can risk burning it. So I'm gonna let that sit for a second, and I'm gonna pop my white back in, and then I will have 3 types of chocolate that I can use. And then we'll get to the fun part of actually molding it and making our Coco bombs. So to start, I'm gonna show you guys, I'm only gonna work with the 70 millimeter molds today. And I'll show you both my silicone molds, how I work with these, and how I work with my 3-piece molds. So I can kind of give you guys a little exposure to both. It's the same process for the 50. The 50 is the smaller size. You can also, it's the same process for any type of mold, okay? But I will show you how I work with that. Okay, so now I have all of my chocolate melted. We're good to go. We can move on to the molding part. Thank you, I appreciate you guys being so nice. Yes, thank you, Amy. That was I knew that it was like a crystal. I just couldn't think of the name of it. I had just read about it. So Paramount crystals, you can find them on Amazon. I'm going to look into that. But thank you. I could not remember the name of it. All right, so I have all of my chocolate, and I'm going to start with my milk chocolate and kind of watch time and see if we want to do more. Now, like I mentioned, I'm currently in my new apartment. I just got my keys like 2 days ago, and I don't have anything here yet. So normally for my silicone molds, I would use a spoon, and I would put in some chocolate and use the spoon to move it around. I only have a tablespoon right now, so that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to scoop in my a little bit of my chocolate. I'm going to put it into my mold, and I'm going to let it sit. And I'm going to just do 2 at a time, just to show you. And I'm going to take the back of my tablespoon and I'm going to run it up the sides of my molds. And you might notice as you're doing that you need a little bit more chocolate. But what I'm doing is I'm pushing it up the sides so that I'm giving it a nice even coating. And you're going to see a lot of like pooled chocolate on the bottom, and I'm going to show you what we'll do with that. So we kind of want to like just make sure the edges are covered. I like to push my chocolate up to the edge and a little bit over. It makes it for a messy mold, but it makes for a better shell. This is my preference. Like I said, I'm not an expert on hot cocoa bombs, but this is what I do. Hopefully the tip will work for one of you, at least one of you. So yes, I use the back of the spoon, in this case a tablespoon, and I just push it up the side so it's going a little bit over the edge, but not like spilling out. Just enough to coat the sides. And I need a little bit more chocolate in this one. I can see some of the bottom of the mold here. So I need a little bit more chocolate, just enough to kind of coat it and make sure that I have a nice even coating for a nice even hot cocoa bomb shell. Okay, so now I have my my mold filled. I want to make sure, like I said, that the edges of all of it are covered. And then you can kind of tell there's some extra chocolate on the bottom. What I like to do is take it and flip it and pour. And I just take it, put it right back over the bowl that I was using, and I just shake it until I see kind of the drizzle. I wish I could like show you, but like the drizzle starts to come out and gets less and less. You can turn it over and kind of monitor. I have a little bit up on the side still, so I'm going to keep shaking it off. You'll see in a second when we use the 3-piece molds, or when I show you the 3-piece molds, why I prefer those. The silicone, they work great. I made hundreds of molds, or 100 of hot cocoa bombs with them last season. They're just a little harder to work with, harder to maneuver. But I have it nice and filled, and I can tell that it's a nice even coating, not too much chocolate left over. There's a little bit that I'm going to kind of scoop up on the sides. Kind of give it a little shake to even it out. That's why you want that nice thin chocolate. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to pop it into my freezer for 6 minutes. 6 to 8 minutes is what I prefer. And while we're doing that, I'll show you the 3-piece molds. Really quick, I'm going to wash the chocolate off my hands, just so I don't make a bigger mess. And this is why I recommend wearing gloves, for sure. Yes, Taylor, you are so good at giving a lot of tips in the comments. Thank you. Yes, another really great thing, that's kind of what I started using when I use the silicone molds, is you can fill them all the way to the top, kind of like spread it around, make sure it's good, and then dump it. And then once all that like chocolate streams out, then you can put it in the freezer and let it harden for your shells. That is also a really good method, and like Taylor said, perfect for you're just getting started with chocolate. Fill it to the top, kind of like shake it out, make sure that everything gets hit, dump it, let it stream out, pop it in the freezer just like we did. And that is a good method. You can use that for those silicone molds. So I'm going to show you the 3-piece molds. These are all the rage. If you join any hot cocoa bomb group, this is where I found them. They post about these. They love them, and I love them, and for good reason. Sorry. On the bottom, I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera, but on the bottom there's this like line right here. That's our fill line. So we're gonna fill this up to this line with chocolate. On here, I know it's gonna be backwards for you guys. It's 27, I should do it like this, 27 grams of chocolate. So we're going to take our tablespoon, our spoon, whatever you have, and we're gonna fill it to that line. And I'm gonna do that for all 3 of the molds. So I like to pour and I kind of shake because you'll hit that line a lot faster than you might think. And for me, it's like a tablespoon, a little bit more. It's a little bit more than a tablespoon of chocolate. If you overfill, don't freak out. I did the first time, but it's so easy with the 3rd piece if you do accidentally overfill. So I'm just filling up to that line, kind of shaking so I can see when it hits it. And this one, I'm at there, this one is at it, and I'm a little bit short on that one, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more chocolate. Kind of, like I said, shaking it just to see when it's hitting that line. So now you can tell it's filled to those lines. You may not be able to tell, but on the camera, but it is filled to that line. And now we're going to take our 3rd little piece. They're flexible, which makes it really nice. We're gonna pop those into our molds. I like to just press down a little bit on each one so it kind of comes up the sides. I should have showed you, sorry guys. You'll press down, it will come up the sides, and that's what that 3rd piece is really nice for. And we'll take our top piece, put it on top, and then that kind of all comes together. What I like to do, my personal preference, is I'll flip it and I'll rub my hand on the chocolate just to make sure it's all coming up along the sides. If you press hard enough, you can do that. This is just my personal preference. It also helps me see if I got enough chocolate in there. On this one, you may not be able to see, I didn't get enough chocolate. There's like a little air bubble, so I'm going to very carefully add a little bit more chocolate to it. Just a little bit. And this is just what I like to do if I notice that there's not enough chocolate in there. And then I press it, and I'll like rub the ends, and I'm gonna pop it into the freezer for, like I said, about 6 to 8 minutes. That's just what I prefer. And I'm gonna pull out my first silicone mold because I noticed that it's already hardening, and I'm going to show you how to demold it. So I like to just take the edges, and this is why it's really good to have them as one individual piece. Cutting it, it's just not my favorite, but you can pull it and it will start to come apart. I let it get too hard, so it cracked. So I'm gonna let it sit for a second because we don't want cracked chocolate. Ooh, a cookie scooper. I use a cookie scooper for everything, so why I don't use it for my hot cocoa buns is an interesting story. I'm gonna have to start doing that. Okay, I kind of messed up on my shell. If I finish pulling it out, it's breaking apart. So I messed up there. That's okay, it happens. We're just going to go with that. But yeah, that happens. I'm gonna let it kind of come to more of a room temperature so it doesn't break. But if it breaks, you can just pop it into your bowl and remelt it. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys some white chocolate ones. Same process, I just wanna have a couple that I show you put together. So normally when I put my two shells together, I like to use, some people will use like a candle warmer. I use a single egg frying pan, so it's very tiny, and it's perfect. It's just the size of the shell. I just heat it up enough, put it on a pot holder, and I'll kind of let the bottom of 1/2 melt, and I'll stick it together. I don't have that with me today. That's okay. I'm going to try a new method, so we're going to do trial and error. I like to use the heat method of the pan. Some also like to just dip the edge of the chocolate on like their melted chocolate, stick those together, or use a piping bag. Another way you can fill these, and I forgot it today, I'm gonna apparently say that 1,000 times, so I'm sorry, but is you can use a piping bag, a nice sturdy piping bag, to fill to the line. Is kind of what I'll use sometimes. Piping bags though, if they're the tipless kind, they're a little bit more flexible than like the Wilton ones. But that, I mean, whatever is comfortable for you. So I'm going to fill up some more molds, just to give you a couple more examples, and this time I'm using my white chocolate that I actually need to heat up for about 10 more seconds. So I think this question from, let me double check, from Michelle. I think you're talking about why did my shell crack. I haven't used a silicone mold in a really long time, and it was my bad. I came in too confident in using them, and I thought I was gonna be good. I think I let it, and I could be wrong, and I can answer this question. I'll do a little bit more research and I will comment more, but I think I let it get too cold and I tried to pop it out too soon, and I think that made it crack. I also maybe just am not good at using the silicone anymore, but I'm trying to be gentle, and I'm noticing even this one is cracking. Maybe I'm just not meant to use silicone anymore, but I will look up more of why this is messing up for me so I can give you a better answer. I want to say that it has to do with the cold to the warmer air. Like I didn't let it come up enough, but yeah, I'm not 100% certain. So I want to give you a good answer. Others who are watching, if you have a good answer, please comment. But I think it's either because I let it get too cold or I didn't make it thick enough. Sometimes, I know I was doing some research on these, and sometimes people who make hot cocoa bombs will do like 2 layers. So they'll do, like I showed you on here, you'll come it up the side, dump or fill and dump, and then they'll do a second layer once they let that harden. They'll do a second layer and make it a little bit thicker. I've only ever used 1 layer. I don't know why I messed up. I will find out. I will do a little bit more research into it and hopefully give you a better answer. But for now, I continue to tell you that though I'm not sponsored, 3-piece molds are better. So I'm sorry that they cracked. I don't know why it happened. I want to be able to give you a better answer, but that is what I know for now. Taylor, you probably should have been the one doing a hot cocoa bomb live because you're giving all the tips right now and I'm learning from you. That's what this is all about, right? So, yes, like I was saying, doing the 2, like the fill, let it harden, and then double coat it, that could make it thicker. And I think I was not pulling it apart from the sides well enough. We're gonna carry on because I don't want to take up too much time dwelling on something like a mistake like that. So we're going to fill up some more 3-piece molds. If you're using silicone, kind of maybe trying a different method if you're struggling, like I obviously did. When you're pulling them apart, be a little bit more gentle than I was. Do the 2 coatings of them. It took me some trial and error as well. Clearly, I'm still trying and erroring, so yes. Anyhow, okay, so we're going to take and fill these. I want to show you guys how to put some of them together, so we're going to just make up some more shells. And I'm using my tablespoon because I don't actually have spoons. You can use whatever makes you happy. With these 3-piece molds, a lot of people recommend them in like the hot cocoa bomb groups, and I bought them. I was influenced by them, and they really do a much better job when it comes to filling your molds and kind of making your shells. So again, I just recommend these for that. I'm going to put my little flexible pieces inside. I give them a little push. I give a little push with my finger on the inside of the silicone thing, the flexible piece, I don't know what it's made out of, and then I top it with this. I like to flip it over and just kind of use my hand to push it all the way aside. Overfilling isn't really a problem. If you overfill, it would just break off. Okay, so I fill them up. I'm gonna give one of them a little bit more. Like I said, you can't overfill them, but you can underfill them. All right, and I have them all filled. I'm gonna pop them into my freezer. I'm going to pull out my other ones, and I'll show you how to take those apart, hopefully without any problems. So we remove the top piece, and now you can take the like 3rd piece and just easily pop it off. And it comes off so nice and so clean, and if there is any extra on your mold or on your like piece, it will just pop off. And I pop it right back into my bowl, and I can just remelt it if I want. And this is when gloves would become really good. You can grab it with your hands, but gloves also will leave it so there's no fingerprints on it. Hopefully no fingerprints. You can just like kind of coax it out, and now I have my hot cocoa bomb shell, my chocolate shell, that I'm going to just kind of set off to the side for right now. Sometimes I'll use my cupcake liners to hold them, if that is something that you wanted to do. And then we can just take off the rest. So this one I kind of overfilled. This I'm just gonna pop right back into my bowl, but I'm just coaxing that chocolate, that 3rd piece out. Any extra chocolate will go into the bowl. And I have my shell. If you are to get these 3-piece molds, if you're into making hot cocoa bombs, I really recommend getting at least 2. So whatever like the number of cavities there are, so there's 3 on this one. If I have 2, then I can make 3 full bombs at the same time. Right now I can only make 1.5. That's just the tip that I have. Okay, so I have my little chocolate shells, and we are going to fill them. I was gonna do dark chocolate, but it's the same process and I don't wanna take up too much more of your time. I don't wanna make this live too long. So we'll move on. So I have my shells. I'm going to use some cupcake liners just because it helps me keep them steady. You could also use your molds again and just like put them in the cavity upside down so the top is inside of it like this. You can do that as well. Okay, so I have my 2 halves here, and I'm gonna try to show you. I know I'm like off camera right here, and all you can see is my face. We are going to fill these up with, I mentioned this at the very beginning, You can make your own cocoa mix if you're fancier than I am. I just use, this is Swiss mix, the kind, Swiss Miss. The kind that I'm switching to is this Stevens brand. It came highly recommended, and as so far, everything that I've tried has been phenomenal. This one is specifically white chocolate cocoa powder with peppermint. It is so good. But I'm just finishing up some of my Swiss Miss. Since these are samples, I didn't feel like I wanted... these are samples, these are what I'm photographing. I didn't really want to use up my new product that I'm going to be selling. That's just me. Yes, I will link the mold. I got them at chocolatemoldsco.com, but I will link it for you, Anna. And yeah, the 3-piece molds are so much easier. Taylor, I do wash them, not between every use. So like if I'm making a bunch of hot cocoa bombs, I have a lot of molds now, just by stocking up, but I'll get like, I think I have 6 molds for each type of chocolate. So I'll do all my like milk chocolate for the day, and then after I'm done with them, making as many as I'm going for that day, then I'll wash them. And to wash them, there's a bunch of tips out there, but what I personally do is I just use hot water. I haven't had a problem. Don't put them in the dishwasher, that's for sure a no-no. But I will just wash them with a my hands and a light sponge, but a microfiber cloth would be a little bit less abrasive. But I haven't had any problems. I've been reusing the same molds for a while now, for a couple months just practicing, and I haven't had them lose their shine. So for me, they're still pretty shiny. And I know that can be kind of a concern for some, but for me, that hasn't been a concern. Anyhow, filling the hot cocoa bombs, I'm going to just tell you what I do. You have to do trial and error. I wish there was a better way. I wish I had one formula that worked for everybody. It comes down to personal preference and the type of cocoa you're using. Last year, when I made hot cocoa bombs, I only used the small ones, the 50 millimeters, these very tiny ones. And I only used these molds, so they can be done. I know how to use them. Today was a bad day. Anyhow, I'm dwelling on something that doesn't matter anymore. But I only use these, and I used just a little under 1 full tablespoon. Okay, so I didn't fill my tablespoon to the top. It was like a little under. If you want to give that a measurement, I'd probably say 3/4 of a tablespoon. I don't have that like in my sets of measuring spoons, so I just kind of eyeball it. But I would say it's about 3/4 of a tablespoon. You can do more. Some people will do more. Some will do 1 tablespoon. Some will do a tablespoon and a half. It comes down to the type of cocoa you're using, and it comes down to your personal preference and the preference of your customers. So I like mine chocolatey. Some of my customers may not. Most of mine do, but I know there are people out there who don't like things too sweet. So you can make them universally one way and just tell them to add more milk. That is up to you. But for my 70 millimeters, these bigger shells, these larger shells, I'm gonna do a tablespoon plus. So I'm gonna do a whole tablespoon and then a little bit extra. So you might call that a heaping tablespoon. It's however you eyeball it, however you measure it, whatever's comfortable for you. This is just what I use. I'm gonna really quickly rinse out one of my tablespoons because I don't have any others to use for this, and I will show you how I fill them, and then we'll talk about sealing them. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let me just rinse it off. And this is what happens when you're in a kitchen that you've never actually baked in yet. Okay, so somebody asked, let me double check. Liz asked, have I ever dusted the inside of my molds? And I can say with luster dust. So I actually brought like in a little sample. So I use this prism powder from Fancy Sprinkles. They have obviously like Sugar Art has some of their like diamond dust, whatever you use. This is just what I bought once. I have dusted my molds before, but I've only ever dusted the silicone molds. I just used my little brush, put a little bit in there, brushed around, made sure there was an even coating, poured my chocolate in, and worked from there. I've never done it with my 3-piece molds, so I personally cannot say if it can be done. I'm sure it can, I just have never actually done it. But for sure, in a silicone mold, it can be. And like I said, I use this prism powder from Fancy Sprinkles because I have so much of it still. All right, let's get to the fun part. Let's fill our mold. I'm going to take my tablespoon and I'm gonna kind of put in 1 tablespoon into 1/2 of my shell. And then I'm gonna do a little extra. It's not quite a tablespoon and a half, but about that. And then I'm gonna add in my marshmallows. I'm just using these regular marshmallows. And I just put in a nice handful, whatever you would like. And that is that's my hot cocoa bomb. So there's like a ledge there. I feel like I'm just casually talking to you guys. So I have filled it, and now I need to combine them. Like I was saying before, I normally use a little mini frying pan that is meant for 1 egg, and I just take the top of it and I very carefully will put it on there for a second, just until I see the edge start to melt, and I'll put it together. I don't have that today. I don't have anything that I can heat up. So what we're going to try, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this live with you, is I'm going to try the method I've seen. Some will take a piping bag and pipe chocolate around the edge and then put them together, or you can lightly put this in your melted chocolate, just like get the edge like very lightly covered and then put them together. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see if it works. So I'm just lightly putting it into my chocolate, kind of rinsing it off, like shaking it off, and then putting it together. And then you can take, and normally I'd be wearing gloves, what you can take and wipe off that edge. I'm not wearing gloves today because these are just my samples. Yes, a heated plate in the microwave would work. So not that anybody cares, but I'm gonna tell you anyhow because that's who I am. I just got my keys to this apartment 2 days ago. I haven't moved anything in. I was at my parents' house and I literally brought everything I would need except for a heating source and spoons. But yes, a heated plate would work. I've seen people will use a candle warmer. So a candle warmer would work. There's a lot of different options. I had just seen where they would like get the outer edge of 1/2 of the shell covered in the melted chocolate, whether with a piping bag or dipping it, and I wanted to try that, plus kind of last minute resort. So it worked. It doesn't have the cleanest line, if you guys can kind of tell, it's kind of there, but what you can do if you are worried about that seam, it doesn't bother me, but this might bother me a little bit. So what I would do is that would be my top, and I'm gonna drizzle it. So I have these bottles that I melted in the microwave with just chocolate, and I'm gonna drizzle it. I'm gonna set this one off to the side, and really quickly I'm gonna show you, we'll put together the white one, and then we'll go and we'll top them, drizzle, like make them look cute, and answer any last minute questions that you guys have, and then we'll be done. Alright, so I have my white chocolate ones. Like I said, Taylor, you have all the tips. Parchment paper for easy cleanup is a must. Normally I don't care about a mess, but that is a great tip. Okay, I'm gonna set my finished hot cocoa bomb off to the side and work with my white. So just take off the top part, And then easy peasy, we're gonna pull out. Okay. Normally easy peasy, that one didn't want to work. But this one popped right out, and I can just pull back the sides and peel out that part. Now I have one shell, or one half of a shell. Take the other one, pull it out. And now I have this one. So we'll put that one together really quick, and then we'll top them, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm gonna come back and I'm just gonna use this mold again. I'm gonna put my 2 halves in here, and I'm gonna fill it up with the same amount of cocoa powder. It's, like I said, about a little more than a tablespoon, about a tablespoon and a half. So this is white chocolate peppermint. And we're making white chocolate peppermint cocoa bombs. If you can find this Stevens brand, it's so good. You can also find peppermint cocoa now that it's winter. But I found this on Amazon and Walmart. Putting in my marshmallows. I love the marshmallows. You can use, like I said, homemade marshmallows. You can use those dehydrated marshmallows. You can use like the big, like Christmas tree ones, the ones that are peppermint flavored. You can use any kind of marshmallow. They're all gonna melt down. I actually had a customer ask if I would make them without marshmallows, and it made me sad. She apparently doesn't like them, even though they'll melt. But to each their own. So I filled up my 1/2. You could put sprinkles in here. You can put all kinds of things in here. I keep it pretty plain. That's just my personal preference. We're gonna dip this one again, just very lightly in the chocolate, and then stick them together. And I'm gonna just rub off that extra. Let it set for a second, and then we'll drizzle and top. I've said that 100 times now. I apologize for being so repetitive. Yes, Amy, so what I will do, sorry, I'm reading comments off of the screen. What I will do for my bombs is, and I was gonna cover this at the end, but I'll talk about it right now. There's a couple of different ways you can package them. What I like to use, if I'm selling them as a set, I'll use cupcake containers. So these larger ones will fit into a like regular size cupcake container. And then these ones, these smaller ones, will fit into minis. So I sell mine personally in singles, 6s, and 12s. It's just what works for me. I don't mess with anything else. And I only discount by like 1/4. So these are $6, and I make them look pretty cute. Because if I'm gonna ask somebody to pay $6, I want them to look good. And then my smaller ones by themselves, I charge $4.50. When I do, and then I popcorn price from there, but I only discount it like a set of 12. These only come down to, I think, $5. So I'll do 6, $5.50, and 5. And then these are gonna be $4.50, $4.25, and 4. Just because these are a lot of work. They're easy to put together. They take practice. Clearly, I can't even use a silicone mold anymore. They take practice, but chocolate's not cheap. Sprinkles are not cheap. So I charge what they're worth. In my area, I was looking it up so that I could like talk about it. In my area, somebody charges $2. $2 a hot cocoa bomb, and then like for 12 she charges like $1 each, and that is absurd. Do not charge that little. These take too much time for that. You're gonna lose so much money, especially if you're tempering chocolate. Anyhow, come down off of my high horse. Just charge your worth, but I personally charge $6 in my area. That will sell. Last year I sold them for $5. No, last year I sold these for $4 because this is all I sold. And that's what I think is a good price. What else? I include, so I do them inside of a single like hot or cupcake container. And then I include like a cute little bow. I like to tie it off with like that bakery twine, but like make it like cute, and a little tag. For me, my preference, what I tell my customers, these get 8 to 10. If you don't like a really chocolatey taste, 12 ounces of milk or water. I prefer milk, and that's just a personal preference. So these ones, I think I typically do 10. So I will tell them on Etsy, you can find these cute little tags that say place in a mug, pour warm chocolate or warm milk on top of it, and bake it, or don't bake your hot cocoa bombs, I'm sorry guys. Pour the warm milk over it, watch it explode. Most of them will say 8, I like 10. For my little ones, I would say 8. If you are doing these for like kids and kids want it a little less chocolatey, or like parents want it for their kids to be a little less chocolatey, then do 10 as well. That's just personal preference. So these 8 to 10, and then these I would recommend 10 to 12, and when I say 8 to 10, 10 to 12 ounces of milk or water. Yes, I include a tag. I like to put a bow on it. If I sell them in a pack, I would do again, probably just a bow, and I have 14 different flavors. I'm trying to get it down, but I'm like kind of set on 14. But I have little stickers that I made with Avery, and they're those like little circles, and I'll put them on top. Imagine this was a container on top of each one. So they got like a variety pack, which is one of each. I'll put a little sticker so they can tell what that is. And then I just include one tag for every container. That's just what I do, and you can kind of work with it how you see fit. Including a tag, yes. And then, so what I do, I think, Emily, what you're asking, and I hope I'm saying that, and I hope I'm reading this correctly, do I leave them in the molds? I don't typically leave them in the molds. Once I put them together, I make up a bunch of shells and then I just store the shells, but what I would do is I would take this and put this on a cupcake liner just to keep it from moving, and I put that, give me a second, as I talk and walk off of the screen, I put that in a little airtight container. There are scrapbook paper storage containers at Michael's that work really well. I got these at Target, so I'll put these in here in a nice airtight container. I don't leave them in the freezer or the fridge. Even in Arizona, I will just set this in a nice cool area. So I'm gonna actually put it in my, don't judge me for this, but I'm gonna put it in my laundry room. It hardly ever gets used, and it's gonna stay nice and cool. It will stay in here. I would say as long as, and there is debate on this, as long as your ingredients are good. My marshmallows will go bad in January. So in January, this would no longer be good. If your chocolate goes bad before January, then these are no longer good whenever those expire. So I would say, from personal experience, personal preference, these are as good as long as your ingredients are good. So if your chocolate's gonna go bad in November, it is November, the end of the month, then these are only good until the end of the month. You can tell your customers probably at least 2-3 weeks you would be safe for about a month. Just leaving them in a airtight container for that long, just kind of out of like heat sources. So if they're leaving it in their kitchen, just like out of the way. That's just my personal preference. And some people, like Taylor mentioned, I personally like to just tell them like use them within a month. I think that's as long as my customers used them last year, but you could keep them. I think your chocolate's gonna stay good. It's not gonna go bad. You can leave these for a while. And I think once the milk hits it, it's gonna still be good. But this is how I store it. I store them in an airtight container with a cupcake liner. I make a bunch of shells ahead of time and just have shells lying around. And I've had shells lying around for the last month. They're still beautiful, they're still nice. Hopefully that answers your question and kind of gives you a good idea of what to do with them. Looking at some other questions. Ooh, keeping them in cupcake pans, definitely good idea. yeah, definitely don't keep them away from the sun. Keep them out of like where heat's gonna hit them. Even here in Arizona where everybody thinks it's super hot, I leave them in a nice, cool, dark area. I don't keep them in the freezer and I don't keep them in the fridge just because I know that's good for my chocolate. Yeah, okay, really quick, we'll go ahead and drizzle these and top them. I have, if you missed at the beginning, I have these little drizzle bottles. These are from Cellabake. I found them on Amazon, and I also found these in my like local bake shop. So I'm gonna really quickly pop these in my microwave for like 10 more seconds. They got a little hard, and then we'll drizzle and top them. And I know I'm going over the hour mark, so I'm gonna hopefully wrap up soon. For my toppings, I will keep it consistent. So I personally like to use the same chocolate as my base and as my topping. My drizzle. So I use milk on my milk. I use white on my white, dark on my dark. The only time that changes is when I'm doing my double chocolate. My double chocolate is more of a dark, I use a dark chocolate base and then I use a milk chocolate drizzle and chocolate chips on top. That's just my personal preference on that, but otherwise I keep them the same. Excuse me. For my toppings, I keep it consistent with whatever the flavor is. So my flavors are peppermint. So I have white chocolate peppermint, milk peppermint, dark peppermint. I have milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate. And then I have flavors like peanut butter, s'mores, cookies and cream. For my cookies and cream, I take, for my shell, I'll take white chocolate and Oreos without the cream, crush them up so that they're very fine, put them in my white chocolate, mix them up, that would be my shell. And then on the top I do drizzle it with milk chocolate and then cookies and cream. For these I have my white chocolate peppermint and my milk chocolate, so I'm going to just use peppermint, crushed peppermint, and sprinkles. But I like to keep my toppings the same as whatever the inside is, the flavoring is. So I just take it. These are really good for drizzling, very consistent. You can use a Ziploc bag with the top cut off as well. So I'm just gonna drizzle it. This is when having parchment paper or something underneath of it would be really good, but I don't, so I'm just going to go with it. So I take it, I drizzle it. I like a lot of drizzle. And then right away, and I'm sorry, this is like off camera. I will show you afterwards. I'll take my peppermint and I'll put it on like right away. And I like to have them look pretty like cutesy and fun. And I think that if they look messy, then like that like rustic feel just like looks good. I don't know. That's my preference. But let me take this, and the drizzle is nice and neat. The peppermint has stuck to it, and this is what my finished product looks like. So I love these bottles because of how nice that drizzle can get, and then I topped it with my peppermint. And now I have one cute little cocoa bomb. We're gonna do, putting that on the edge like that was the weirdest idea I've ever had. Let's do our milk chocolate one. And for my drizzle, sorry, I'm trying to talk at the same time, but also have weird concentration. So for my drizzle, I like it to be freshly melted, like so it's pretty thin and loose, but I also want it to be, I want it to not be too hot. Sorry, words are hard. So this one was pretty thick. Still, I could have melted it some more, but I was afraid of it getting too hot. But I have my nice done hot cocoa bomb. I think the drizzle looks cute. You probably wouldn't need it, but if you want to keep your toppings on it, this is a great way to do it. So now we have 2 hot cocoa bombs that are nice and decorated, and you could drink these right now. So that's that. Like I was saying, I want to keep the toppings to look like what's on the inside. So I have English toffee. I use English toffee pieces. S'mores, I use dehydrated marshmallows and graham cracker dust. So just whatever you think is kind of appropriate. You can use these cute little sprinkles, like I have the fancy sprinkles. These were just like Wilton's Nonpareils. You can leave them blank. You don't have to top them. That's just my personal preference. I love sprinkles. I love keeping them cute. So I didn't use so for the Grinch Cocoa Bombs, I have all the stuff for them, but I didn't make them last year. What I plan on doing for them this year is just milk chocolate. And for those of you who don't know, the Grinch ones, or some people call them the mean one or something similar, it's a green shell. This is Merkin's, just like candy coatings, or rainbow coating is what they're called. These, you melt down, make them the same, fill them, and then you put like a heart on the top, and they're like the mean ones for Grinch. I think I'm just gonna use milk chocolate. Excuse me. Alright guys, I hope I helped you understand hot cocoa bombs just a little bit more. I apologize for the silicone molds not working out. They worked good for me last year. This year, apparently I need more practice. 3-piece molds. I'll link everything when I'm done. But if you guys have any last minute questions, feel free to put them into the comments and I'll answer them. But yeah, hopefully you walked away with a cute little bomb. They're so adorable. I love these so much. I love working with chocolate. And thanks for spending a little bit of your afternoon with me, guys. Oh, that's okay, Janelle. Hopefully you get something out of it. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. And I'm gonna end it now, but please feel free to leave any comment or any questions that you have, and I will answer them. And like I said, I'll answer them as long as somebody watches this and asks a question, I will answer it for you. Thank you so much, guys. All right, well, have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Thanks for spending a little bit with me. I really am grateful for the feedback. I was so nervous, if you couldn't tell, and I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. Bye, guys. Thank you.